Hi, and welcome back to Easily Agreeable Reviews. Want to watch a review free of criticism? You've come to the right place. Today, we're going to be reviewing the original Neon Genesis Evangelion series, as well as its follow-up feature, End of Evangelion. Arguably one of the most influential animes of all time, it's easy to see why watching it all these years later. I don't have any context of watching the show when it originally aired, back in '95. I don't know what it was like seeing it for the first time then. I've grown up watching the shows and movies that had drawn influence from that original series. But even after seeing those influences, it still holds up. It is easy to see why it's so influential. There really is nothing else like it. So let's do a quick rundown of the plot for all of the 5 people who aren't aware. Evangelion follows a young boy, Shinji, who joins the battle against the Angels, a series of kaiju-like creatures sent from somewhere to wipe out humanity. Well, that's what you're led to believe in the beginning of the show. However, the true brilliance of the show starts when the characters start descending into madness, and it becomes something else entirely. The first half of the show follows a lot of the anime cliches we've grown accustomed to. That's not to say the first half still isn't incredible. There really isn't any filler. Every episode has something to reveal about our characters. Plus, the angels are always so thoughtfully designed. They feel truly out of this world. My favourite of which is just a giant floating cube. But the way that episode is edited is one of the most engaging 20 minutes of animation ever put to screen. This episode feels like it definitely had a huge influence on Hideaki Anno's Shin Godzilla, a movie he went on to later direct. But as I said, once the show finally starts unravelling the characters, it becomes something in a league of its own. It becomes a show about depression, sexuality, spirituality, parental relations, and it does this while still being a thoroughly entertaining mech show. Every character is beautifully written. This isn't the type of show I imagined I'd be crying at when I started it, but the way it bears these characters, you can't help but want the best for them. The biggest problem people have with this show is the ending. For budgetary reasons, this show couldn't have the big finish that was planned, but I think the ending we got is probably more interesting than what we would have had. What we got here was an introspective breakdown of the barriers of animation that gives our characters inner resolution as opposed to an external one, and I love that. So this show definitely gets a 10 out of 10.
What the hell is that? Dear God!
Now, a lot of people were not happy with the ending of the series, resulting in death threats and a general hatred of parts of that show. End of Evangelion is in large parts about that hate. There are very few movies that have such a strong sense of hopelessness. End of Evangelion is a statement, and a very angry one. But it's also beautiful and poetic, and it's without a doubt my favourite animated movie of all time. Every single frame of this movie is burned into my brain. It's truly a harrowing watch, and the more you care about the characters, the more this film punishes you for it. The film itself takes place almost immediately before episodes 25 and 26 of the show. But that's not to say it doesn't flat out ignore the events of 25 and 26. Those episodes still exist within the characters' heads, just later on in this movie. It's difficult talking about this movie because it doesn't really follow a traditional structure. It's 2 acts, the battle at Nerve, a Red Wedding style finale for our beloved characters, giving each character a satisfying conclusion, but not necessarily the one we would want for them. And a second act, an existential, terrifying and transcendent look into the characters' minds, culminating in the third impact, which is in my opinion one of the best sequences of animation put to film, and one of my favourite scenes throughout any form of media. Ultimately, this is a movie that revels in despair. It captures the feeling of the world falling apart and the emptiness of it all. I wouldn't blame anyone for hating this. It's asking to be hated. But I think for anyone that's been in a dark place, it just makes sense. This film means a lot to people. It means a lot to me. Ultimately, there is hope in the finale of this movie, but it's melancholy. It asks the viewer directly to confront their own problems. It even goes obvious as showing packed theatres and asking the audience directly to find meaning in themselves and others. I think this is a movie that everyone needs to see, and I can't believe it does all of this while still being thoroughly entertaining. Seriously, this has some of my favourite action scenes ever. This will come as a surprise to no one who's just watched this video, but I'm giving this a 10.